From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. Hey, James, how are you today? We're back for another great episode with another fine guest.
I'm doing great, Steve. Looking forward to this discussion. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. You and I have put a lot of time and tried to really promote our community, and we have yet another member from our community, and both active in LinkedIn, but also somebody who's commented on our past episodes. So it's great to have a raving fan, hopefully, and active audience member. And with that, I'll introduce Eugene Dunn. He's the ecosystem project support engineer at Q-SYS. Welcome, Eugene.
Thank you. It's happy to be here.
Thanks for being with us. And you and I know each other for some time, and we've gotten to know each other more recently. And you play a really critical role at Q-SYS. But before we get to talk about that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what's brought you to the present day and your AV journey?
I've been in AV for about 11 years. I started up in New York doing residential systems for about 4 years, mainly Crestron, a little bit of custom stuff. Did commercial for about 4 years, and now I've been with QSC for the last three, doing the same role, ecosystem support engineer, translating everything from asset manager to library and moving our standards and tooling along.
That's excellent. Tell us a little bit, I guess, about what that journey has brought you in terms of your learning and some of your takeaways.
It was honestly a little bit of a challenge at first. I got put down as I started as an intern at EV Integrator so I could finish my associate's degree. I got a little desk, a laptop, and a Pac 2M, and was told, hey, learn this. And over a week, just playing with simple, reading the whole manual. I had a master certified gentleman on the other side of the wall that I could ask questions here and there. But I learned simple and a whole lot of simple plus on my own over a week, and then just spiraled from there. Um, if you put a piece of technology in my hands, I'll sit there, learn it, and then mostly read the manual a whole lot, and then try to become a master in it.
Wow. So no training formally, just almost like DIY, it sounds
A
like.
little bit of computer science through my associate's degree. You have to learn computer science when you go for a networking class at that time. I did some robotics in high school, but I was mostly mechanical. I did some machining. I didn't do programming on that team. All my programming knowledge before that came from playing with Raspberry Pis, Arduinos. I had one of those original Raspberry Pi 2s when they first came out. It was cutting edge at the time. 512 megabytes of RAM on a little credit card size machine.
Well, you joke about that. I'm sure a lot of people will say when I first started out, I had a 20 meg hard drive and so forth. You know, we were uh, all kind of cutting edge at the time. It sounds like, well, in starting in this industry. James, I'll bring you in. Um, you know, you talk a lot about, finding a little project and jumping in and figuring it out. It sounds like Eugene probably has a very similar mindset and comes at this almost from a creator mentality.
Yeah, and one thing I want to highlight on is like Eugene, like you said, you give him a piece of equipment, he's gonna dive into it and become the master. I feel I'm similar. The only difference is I'll admit I'm not a big one for reading manuals. I like to hit buttons and go, oh no, that broke. How do I fix that? And then go back and fix things. That's how, my programming journey in AV started was I had spare equipment with someone's old code and they're like, we need this to work. And I'm like, I know nothing. And I just started typing away. I'm like, oh no, that broke. Let me go back, fix that, and change this. So, yeah, that is probably the best way to learn. I think is getting your hands on the equipment, diving into the manual if that's your learning style. My learning style is breaking and fixing. So yeah, no, I mean it's awesome, and pet projects are always the way to go because you're invested. So you're like, I have this idea, I want it to work. So you are invested in it. It's not like, oh, work is telling me to do this, and I don't really want to do it. So I think having pet projects are always a good way to learn.
Really hit on a mentality that I like is that's AV programmers are typically problem solvers. Give us a problem, we want to solve it. Give us means, give us tools, give us resources. The more tools, resources you could give someone, the better they could solve your problems. And that's the end goal.
Agreed.
Ha- Um, looking at, I think AV, kind of has to be that blend. AV programming has to be that blend of understanding the programming side, but understanding also the AV side and the user side. It's really a little bit of a different approach, or I guess, to kind of think of it as like full stack programming, but you have to know the AV portion. Did you have that experience going in, Eugene, or is that something you learned all along the way?
A lot of the AV centric stuff I learned along the way. I had some basic fundamentals in electronic engineering, sound, cabling, networking was a huge background for me. So as the industry moved into IT practices, I adopted a lot more. Some of the analog stuff I'm a little bit weaker on, but if you know your fundamentals of electronics, it all just makes sense at that point. One of the harder skills I found that took me years to pick up is the human side of it. Is your users are part of that full stack. How
Mhm.
does a user interact with the room? How does different people read the room? Um, if I'm developing or programming a room for a hospital, it might be different than a classroom or for a courtroom. The users are different. The expectation is completely different. Um, so being mindful of that is a skill all in its own.
100%. And I know Steve and I have always talked about, who makes the better going from IT into AV or understanding AV going into programming. Um, and I think Eugene kind of hit something I feel is more AV-ish is you look at the like he mentioned earlier is program AV programming. We want to solve a problem. I actually think that's all of AV. Like our users want to communicate, want to display something, and we as an industry want to solve that problem. How can we best solve it? Some do the programming, some do the sales, some do the visuals, some does the audio, but they're always how we're solving that problem. Where IT is like, I just want my equipment up. That's all they care about is uptime. And don't get me wrong, we want uptime. Customer side is huge. That soft skill is very important, especially in my world in the higher ed. And it reminds me back when I was a student worker and my supervisor at that time, him and I were talking, and he's like, I see two type of student workers that come through our team here. He's like, some who are very good in tech, but have no people skills. So they learn the people skills working on the team. And others who are very strong in people skills, but need help on the tech. So yeah, you'll get this side. And I would say people skills are the hardest. Because as we always say, like we're a customer facing my team and stuff. Always tell my team, it's something that's been drilled in me, is people are not calling us to say hi. They're calling us because they have a problem. They're frustrated they have a problem. And in my world, in higher education, is usually they are in front of 60, 70, 80 students and they have egg on their face because something's not working. And they're supposed to be the leader, the expert and stuff. So they're already frustrated, they're already mad, and they're not calling us and saying, "Hey, how is your day?" They're calling us because, "Hey, your equipment's not working. You need to solve my problem." Again, going back to problem solving.
I think that that's such an important part, of what we do, and that I love your saying too that tech is easy, people are hard. It's so true. But you know, for going going back to what Eugene was saying is that I think that programmers a lot of times are not given the credit that not only do you have to work with all of the technology, you have to work with potentially new devices that may be unknown, but you also have to deal with the people, and the people are going to be different every time. And we do have our ways of approaching maybe potentially different use cases and different scenarios, but they're not always going to be exact. And in fact, they're probably never going to be exact from one to the next.
Oh yeah.
There's different types of and folks you deal with too. I learned over my career. I will communicate differently with an organization's IT manager, a organization's room manager. Maybe I'm talking to just a sample user, a project manager, the GM. If you're dealing with a GM on a new construction, you're communicating differently to all these different folks. An IT manager just wants to know the information, get it on the network. What is your needs to get this on my network securely? And how can I scale with it? How can I set up your network for that? They want to work collaboratively sometimes like that. A room manager wants to know what the end result's going to be. Is this going to work? Is this going to be easy for my users? They don't care about what the IT manager cares about. And you're going to communicate these things differently to those folks. That is a hard skill to learn. But once you've gotten to that step, you could very quickly, effectively communicate through a project and get back to programming.
It's really what makes AV programmers and AV programming special, in my opinion, I think. And plus we also get to see the satisfaction of the work that we do and the people that are using it or that are owning the systems that we program. Before we wrap up, and we're going to get into your current day role, Eugene, at Q-SYS, and because I think it's an important part, and a lot of people don't realize how much you are behind a lot of the integrations that Q-SYS supports. But talk a little bit about how your background in scouting has helped you with AV, because I think that that'd be really neat.
Thank you. I am an Eagle Scout. I worked for my Scout Council with a Scout camp for 11 years. Through that, I learned a lot about how to teach, how to communicate. You talk differently with a Cub Scout, a teenager, an adult, an executive. I ran our COPE course. I was a COPE director, so that's a high adventure course where you teach individual skills, but teamwork, and push people past their normal boundaries. You try and push someone down a zip line that is afraid of heights, but you guide them through it. Doesn't matter if you sit up on that platform for 30 minutes with them, and then they always say thank you at the end of it. I believe in volunteering and helping folks. It's one of those skills that a lot of the installers I'm with really appreciate is when you're on a job site as a programmer, you're part of that team. Sometimes that means I'm going to break out my cable tools and maybe I'll help terminate a couple cables, fix a couple cables. If these two techs are hanging 100-inch TVs and I need an RS-232 cable fixed, I think I'm just going to go fix that cable real quick and respect their time and talent getting these TVs up on the wall as opposed to trying to derail that project. Those are skills you learn there as your team member, not just the guy that's sitting there on the laptop. If you work as a team, they appreciate you and they will help you out more.
It's
They're
really
important skills.
ties in very neatly to the idea of problem solving.
Exactly. That first place I interned, the CEO was a scouter that knew me. They gave me that laptop and that Pac 2M because they knew if they just put me in a corner with a little bit of a budget, they were going to get something out of the end. And we made a couple awesome products for them from scratch that were novel and still work today.
That's awesome. Well, probably a good place for us to stop this episode. But we're going to have Eugene back next week, so make sure you tune in. And there's going to be a lot of great insight that he's going to share as he did on this episode. But until then, Eugene, can you let people know how they can get in touch with you, learn more about Q-SYS and some of the work that you do?
Easiest place to find me is either on LinkedIn or a Q-SYS community for developers. Um, if you're on Q-SYS community for developers, I'm pretty easy to find. I'll comment a lot. I have a lot of posts in the Q-SYS library feed. On LinkedIn, just search my name. I'm not too hard to find.
Great. And that's Eugene Dunn, and I'll provide a link in our show notes too, to both of those. James, what are your final thoughts? And also share how people can reach you and continue the conversation.
I don't know. Final thoughts is, Eugene kind of said it all there with, problem solving. We got a problem, we want to solve it. Um, Anyone want to reach out to me, just Google me, you'll find me. I'm out there. In that's the program community, on LinkedIn. Again, Google me, you'll find me.
Fantastic. And yeah, thank you, Eugene, for this great conversation. And we're going to be speaking some more. But one thing I want to point out is that as Eugene said, he comments a lot, and being active in these groups really not only gets you known, but it also connects you with other people, and you also are expanding your knowledge base and making your creating value for everybody involved. So thank you. I appreciate that. For me, you can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social platforms. LinkedIn is the best place at this time. And as James said, the LinkedIn group for Ask the Programmer is a place that we try to bring our listeners and those supporters of our podcast together. So please join that. It's free to join and open for everybody. My company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of this podcast, and we build some of the components that help products work with control platforms, as we've touched on a little bit, and also add functionality to systems. And you could find out more about that at controlconcepts.net. This podcast is on YouTube in the video form and also on audio in your favorite podcast players. So you can hear us and watch us in either place. But whichever you choose, please leave a rating, review, share your favorite episode. We certainly would like to hear from you. We'd also like to be in touch with more of our listeners and members of our community. So just reach out, and you know how to find us. So until then, thank you for listening and watching. This has been Ask the Programmer.